Well, after attorneys made arguments in May in front of the Illinois Supreme Court from a case that originated out of Macon County from State Representative Dan Caulkins and several hundred Macon County residents, they secured a temporary restraining order against the states from enforcing the law against named plaintiffs. That follows thousands of others who have temporary restraining orders in place in cases brought by Attorney Thomas DeVore in several other counties. But now we get to today, where everybody's been anxiously waiting what's going to happen with the Illinois Supreme Court and what the possible outcomes are. Well, to talk about that in particular is State Representative Dan Caulkins, who brought that challenge. He joins us now. Representative, thanks for taking time with us. What are you going to be looking for today when they release the ruling at 9 o'clock in a little over an hour and a half from now?
Good morning, Greg. First of all, let me just correct the record. We did not get a temporary restraining order. The judge in Macon County declared this law unconstitutional, period. End. It was not a temporary restraining order.
Gotcha. All right. Yeah, and even if there was some question about whether or not that applied to the whole state or if it just was for you guys or what the case may be. But regardless, we've got the outcome of the Illinois Supreme Court set to release their opinion today.
Yes, correct. We've been told at 9 o'clock today that the opinion will be released, so we're anxiously waiting.
And what are you looking for? Of course, the arguments were that this violates equal protections and special legislation. Also, just the general, Second Amendment arguments. What are you going to be looking for specifically in this outcome?
Well, and our case was about equal protection. As people know, one of the founding principles of this country in our Constitution and the state of Illinois' Constitution, which is the Constitution we cited, guarantees that everyone will be treated equally under the law. And, I didn't feel, and many others don't feel, that this law is fair. It does not treat everyone the same. I do not have the same rights and privileges as someone who is a prison guard or a sheriff, deputy sheriff, or a guard at Clinton Nuclear Power Facility. I cannot own, buy, sell, possess the so-called assault weapons, semi-automatic rifles, shotguns, pistols with magazines over 15 rounds, parts, repair parts. I'm forbidden from buying, selling, and required to register, and someone else is not. And two parts of that. One, why am I denied my Second Amendment rights when someone else is? And two, there's no way for me to get my rights back other than through the court. 22 years of military service. I think I have, just personally, for my own self, I think I have as much training, skill, as anyone else in the state of Illinois, and yet I'm being denied my rights under this law that was passed in January, in the lame duck session, by the way, this year.
Yeah, it was just in a handful of hours that it passed, and ultimately the governor signed it and enacted it on January 10th. And then you had the flood of lawsuits in both state and federal court being filed. The one in state courts, your case, going from Macon County, where, again, thanks for correcting the record, the judge there did declare that the law was unconstitutional, and it went right to the Illinois Supreme Court, where the arguments were made in May. But, Representative, a lot of people watching this case, they have concerns about questions of conflict of interest. Now, your attorney, Jerry Stocks, he indeed did file a motion for the justices to recuse themselves, justices that received $1 million each from Governor J.B. Pritzker into their campaign coffers, and that raises the question of conflicts of interest and the possible problems there. The justices, they declined and refused to recuse themselves despite Stocks' official motion. What's going to happen here if they rule against you guys in the challenge of the state's gun and magazine ban? Are you going to pursue that Caperton v. Massey challenge about conflicts of interest and take that to the federal courts?
That's a decision that'll be made, I'm sure. If not later today, next week, we'll have to decide we're presuming that we don't get a favorable ruling, and I don't like to do that. I don't think anybody, should presume what a court is going to do. I know there's a public opinion about the Illinois Supreme Court, but we're waiting. We're waiting to see what they write, how they write it, how this goes down. The sad part is that we're having to go through this, Greg, this is about a radical agenda that's being forced on the people of Illinois by Governor Pritzker. We seem to be a petri dish for his presidential aspirations. Everything that we've seen come through the General Assembly in these lame duck sessions and late at night, from the Safety Act to the Senate Bill 1909, which has just been TRO issued against the New Life Pregnancy Center, because it probably violates the First Amendment rights. This is a playbook that Governor Pritzker's people have put in place to set him up as the most far-left radical candidate. I think they're thinking that President Biden isn't going to run again, and they're trying to make J.B. Pritzker a viable primary candidate in the Democratic presidential campaign. And they've done it by shutting down our electric generators, going about this gun ban, assault weapons ban, so to speak, making Illinois the abortion capital of the United States. I mean, we can go on and on and on. We're the only state in the Midwest that's going through this. And I, in my heart, I believe this is all about setting Governor Pritzker up to run against Gavin Newsom, who is another far left governor, and anyone else that wants to step up and challenge for the Democrat primary. And the people of Illinois are suffering because of it.
Well, Representative, a couple of weeks ago, the governor admitted that the challenge in federal court of his gun and magazine ban likely wouldn't, lead to the ban being upheld. When I asked him that yesterday, he kind of equivocated a bit and said, it's because the U.S. Supreme Court is, wanting to take away the rights of parade goers and saying that, AR-15s are causing, carnage in neighborhoods. When it comes to this idea that he recognizes it really doesn't stand a chance in federal court, should constitutionally elected statewide offices like the governor sign legislation they know won't survive a constitutional challenge in the federal courts?
It doesn't seem to matter. It doesn't seem to matter to the far left. And maybe these folks in the General Assembly are voting for this stuff because they have to. I don't know. But this law has been on the books now for 9 months, 8 months now. And what's been the result of this? Let's just not look at the whole state, because that's a little harder for me to get my hands around. But let's just look at Cook County, Chicago. Since this gun ban, this law that Governor Pritzker put in place has been in effect, we've had 363 people killed by gun violence. Okay? Almost 1,900 people have been shot. 96% of those folks are minorities. And I don't understand why the minority community isn't rising up against this gun ban, because it denies them the right to protect themselves and their families. There's been over 100,000 shots fired recorded, and those recordings aren't in every neighborhood of Chicago. but they've recorded over 100,000 shots fired in Cook County. So what have we achieved? We're punishing law-abiding, FOID card holding citizens of this state for what? For what purpose?
Representative, finally here, not on the gun ban issue, but you've got another court case that's going on up in Chicago right now. Tim Mapes, the former House clerk and chief of staff for former House Speaker Michael Madigan. Of course, the ComEd 4 was found guilty earlier this year. Mike Madigan, he faces trial next year. But you're a member of the Illinois House. Have there been any substantive conversations about how to curb the types of activities that we are now seeing be put on display by federal prosecutors in this corruption case?
No, the Democrats don't. They don't want to touch this. We've asked for all kinds of ethics reforms. Here's the difference. Mike Madigan would go out and solicit campaign donations from people who had issues before the General Assembly, and then he would dole them out to his members to make sure that they knew where that money came from and how they should be voting on issues. We don't have Mike Madigan anymore, but we have his policies, his procedures, his corruption still in place. It's just now it's controlled by one person who doesn't need to go out and get campaign donations, and that's Governor Pritzker. He, as you alluded to earlier, he put $1 million into each of these Supreme Court justices' campaigns. He's put hundreds and hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars into the political machine in Illinois to make sure that people know what they're supposed to do. So we've traded off Mr. Madigan's reign, where he was, using campaign donations to get things done, to now where we have Governor Pritzker using his wealth, billion-dollar wealth, to get his agenda passed. And we'll see how, it's just not working out. It's not working out for everybody, the ordinary people in this state. And I just can't believe that the vast majority of people in Illinois are going to put up with this.
State Representative Dan Caulkins, of course, will be watching what happens in just a little over an hour with the release of the Illinois Supreme Court ruling, and I am expecting to talk with you afterwards at the Illinois State Fairgrounds to get your reaction shortly thereafter. So we'll definitely be connecting again soon. Appreciate you taking the time with us today, and be safe out there, all right?
Thank you very much. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with your audience this morning, and we'll see you around 10:30.
All right. It is Springfield's Morning News on 92.7 WMAY, Springfield's News and Talk. That's State Representative Dan Caulkins here with WMAY. All right. Stay tuned. Much more.